Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet Sky FF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Suj.
My name is James.
So we're back, just the two of us. Actually, there's quite a gap between us. We had to reset the microphones because we obviously set up for the joint podcast that we released yesterday with Tom and Nick from Who Got the Assist.
Yesterday became such a massive drama for me and Suj because the editing work and the stuff that Manchild has done behind the scenes to produce a good quality podcast is fairly unbelievable, actually.
Yeah, he did good on that. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to us joining forces with Tom and Nick, it's on our feed. You must have seen it. If
and
you've
theirs.
seen this and theirs. It's to say we got 1 second extra on ours somehow.
We don't know how or why. Bonus content.
Yeah, 1 second's worth. Maybe you get the extra clap or ooh on one of them.
We also, the last time we sat here, just to mention it briefly because it is a little bit relevant to Sky,
Yes.
although it was very FPL focused. We did record a podcast on Monday comparing Tammy Abraham and Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
Although, as I said, it is very FPL focused, you might find that useful as well.
Well, Tammy Abraham is still the highest point scorer in Sky Fantasy Football as
Correct.
it stands. So, yeah, definitely a consideration. But this week, I mean, I don't own either. I don't own either.
No, neither do I, and I don't think I will either. Have you got any planned transfers in mind, Suj?
No, because I made the one last week when I moved from Salah to Aubameyang, which gave me the captain of Aubameyang on the Sunday. That worked out well. I have no intentions of moving from anywhere to anywhere. I owned Wilson a little while ago, and I moved to Vardy to give me captaincy coverage on the Saturday game when they smashed. Who did they smash? 5-0 or whatever.
Who,
Leicester.
Chelsea?
Leicester.
Oh, Leicester smashed
Vardy.
Newcastle, yeah.
Newcastle. So that was a good move, all in all, captaining Vardy that day. But I do now wish, if I'd had Wilson, I might even captain him this weekend. But
Well, I think I'll be captaining, if I hold through with him, and I'm going to debate something during this pod where I might not, I think I'll captain Jamie Vardy for the next 4 games that Leicester play.
wow.
So it's worth it.
Yeah, okay. One to consider. You own Kevin De Bruyne, sticking with him at the
I
moment.
don't own Kevin De
You
Bruyne.
don't. I do own Kevin De Bruyne. Still
I
sticking
am
with him.
0.3 short of moving from Luca Dean to Kevin De Bruyne, which might sound painful, but were I to even have the money to make that move, I wouldn't, because it would leave me scrapping for bits to get back to a Salah or Mane if I needed to.
Interesting fixtures this week. We've got a Sunday with one fixture and a Monday with one fixture. Sorry, let me get those words out correctly. Manchester United, Liverpool. Most people will have a Liverpool asset that they can captain that day. Mine's going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Be mine as well, yeah.
And then on the Monday, Sheffield United versus Arsenal. I've got 2 Arsenal assets, Pepe and Aubameyang, so I could captain either.
You would obviously go Aubameyang,
I would
surely.
go Aubameyang.
Yes, I will be on Aubameyang as well.
But then all other 8 fixtures are on the Saturday.
So Saturday's a more difficult one and quite open. You've probably already guessed. I'm going to captain Jamie Vardy at home to Burnley as opposed to Aguero is my other decision away to Palace. I'm going to back Vardy in a home game. I quite fancy it more than let's say a resistant Crystal Palace, and although I would be 85%, which I think is enough for Aguero, sure that he will play, I think I'm going to back Vardy here. But there are many alternatives. So obviously Abraham and Wilson were already mentioned. Choose Chelsea at home to Newcastle, Bournemouth at home to Norwich. And for those who might be hanging around on Kane, home to Watford. So Saturday, you would probably argue the 3 best choices for the weekend, Abraham, Wilson and Kane. You would probably argue.
I've got Vardy as one option. Mason Mount is potentially another option in midfield, but I think he might be a little bit riskier to go with Mason Mount. So I may join you with Vardy. It's either Vardy or Sterling on the Saturday for me. Palace away is a horror fixture. Palace at any time are just dogged, aren't they?
Yeah, City could, of course, win it 3-4-0. Of course they could, but it's an awkward fixture. Palace, because they're a side that is naturally at their best counter-attack in any case, if they go 1-0 down, they won't change too early. They'll try and stay in the game. This fixture's been quite a frustrating one for City in the last couple of years. They won 3-1 there in April in the run-in, but only sealed it quite late, although they were in complete control of the game. And it was 0-0 the year before, around Christmas time. You might remember Ederson saved a late penalty from Milivojevic.
Yeah. We put out for questions on Twitter, which we seem to be doing with this show now, because I think it helps us.
Plus,
we're novices.
The nice thing I know is when I send the tweet out for the Sky questions, I know the responses are manageable. We can probably nearly cover them all without rushing it.
It doesn't tell me how many we've had.
There's about 11 or so, I think.
Yeah, and we're getting, like I said, we're novices at this. So we're getting questions from people that have played the game a little longer, and as a result, ask good questions. And let's start with one of those people.
Go for it.
Paul at Sky Player in FPL.
You're showing no bias there.
Well, he's the top. Here's the tweet. Top question is Paul. So no bias whatsoever. But Paul, thank you for your question. He's asking about Pepe. He's had a nightmare so far, but with an assist last time out and a good run of fixtures and Laka coming back, is it worth the risk to hold on? I own him, and I'm holding. I don't feel like it's a justifiable transfer right now to move away from him.
Okay, I mean, because I don't own him and I've got Aubameyang, I don't have any extensive thoughts to add to that.
Nowhere
really.
I can go to get a 3-for-1 or 2-for-1 or any of those kind of bargain
Who
deals
are your forwards?
Get in Sky. I have Aubameyang, Sterling, and Vardy.
Okay, so at the moment,
I have Kevin De Bruyne, Mason Mount,
yeah.
and this guy, Pepe.
Okay, I mean, you could consider coming up. I mean, you probably wouldn't at the moment because Villa's okayish run of fixtures is about to end. But for example, your John McGinn's, for example,
instead of Pepe,
which adds in some money, you might want to beef something up defensively.
At the moment, I've got Soyuncu, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Gilbert, and the one that we all want to get rid of, Luca Dean, which we've established now is how you pronounce his name, Luca Dean.
Do we? The only point I'd make very briefly on Luca Dean, I am conscious that the manager's probably one more bad result away from the sack.
And then what?
Well, we just know what happens to teams when that happens as a general. I think it's an overemphasised myth, but I think for a club like Everton, you might see an immediate response. The fixtures are still good up until a longer term period in sort of December-ish. But yeah, I generally, Luca Dean's the one I probably want to get rid of most in my squad. But then I don't feel desperate to do that.
No.
Got two difficult-ish home fixtures coming up in West Ham and Tottenham in the next 3. But they're the sort of games we're keeping clean sheets in towards the end of last season at Goodison. So it might flip again, right? On Pepe...
Back to Pepe. I was going to say, we've somehow digressed to Luca
because
Dean.
we do that.
Of course.
I tell you what...
This week's not a week to get rid of him before Sheffield United away.
He's not on my radar at all.
To bring him in?
No.
But also if you own him, because I feel like Paul owns him because the final question is...
Well, it gives you the coverage, and what I would say is I'm obviously going to captain Aubameyang in the majority of fixtures he's got coming up.
Yeah.
But they're not as good as they look on paper. Sheffield United, Palace, Wolves. They're not, I don't know, not real eye-openers to think I can see him getting a couple or so there. So actually in the forthcoming weeks, if Paul's saying he hasn't got Aubameyang, for example, there might not be major differences in the two. I think if you've got both, my advice would be to move him on.
Okay. DJ Newton. We know DJ Newton, Pavel, right? He came down to the live show. Dzień dobry, as you would say.
Amazing shirt.
Indeed.
That's all I remember.
He came in a bit later and you were probably a little tipsy by then.
To be honest, I was pissed long before we started that day.
True. I can see a 4-3-3 and most managers are sitting on Salah or Vardy, Aguero or Aubameyang as the trio up front. Heavy hitters. This is not a trap because we're missing on precious points from Abraham and Wilson. The reason I asked it obviously brings us back to Monday's pod. While they have great fixtures because our front line is occupied and we want to focus on not making transfers there. I can't argue with Abraham there. I also can't argue with Wilson there. The thing is we do keep these big hitters because of the captaincy option, right? So if you are dropping down, then who do you have that you can have as potential midfield captaincy options? Now, other than Kevin De Bruyne, in this game, some of the midfielders from FPL are forwards, Salah, Sterling, Mane, so on. So you don't then have the ability to find as many captaincy options in midfield. So if your front line is Abraham and Wilson, then you do have to consider, are you happy to armband them and then what's your armband captaincy strategy over the next few weeks. Remember again that FPL is one captain a week. This is sometimes 3 or 4 captains a week, and so then you really need that 3 or 4 options. So it's much trickier. I don't disagree with the strategy of having these players because they are scoring points.
I think one of the things with Wilson, Bar sort of probably this weekend, and when they have the odd game where they're on their own, as in Bournemouth, you're not going to captain too much, I don't think, when you've got these power players elsewhere. Chelsea, I looked ahead at the fixtures. So, I mean, their next 2 fixtures are both Saturdays where City have standout home fixtures. That's in spite of the fact Chelsea having Watford away in Sky's Game Week 13. Game Week 14, they're at home to Palace, which is a decent one that you could captain him. That's when I'm probably going to go probably Vardy over against Arsenal, or Aubameyang's an option there. Kane, if you has Sheffield United at home. That's a possible Sky's Game Week 14. But there aren't too many more looking further ahead. I would take the choice. A good comparison here is, say I've got Vardy. In the next 4 game weeks, I'm probably going to captain Vardy 4 times, whereas I would only captain Abraham twice. Mm-hmm. And that has to be weighed up in the factoring of the decision. The fact that I'm getting Vardy's points doubled 4 times, whereas essentially I'd only be putting another 50% on top of Abraham's. Admittedly, in probably his 2 better fixtures of the 4.
But you will have other captains on the days that you're not captaining Abraham over Vardy.
But then Vardy gives me like really good cover, like the Southampton game that Sunday when they go to Palace and Everton play Spurs. That's a difficult captaincy day in spite of there being 2 fixtures, I think. And that's why at the moment, again, this is probably something I'm going to learn further down the line in the game. Like, in spite of being the top scorer in the game, Abraham's not in my thoughts at the moment for this. He's a shoo-in for my FPL team, but not in this. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how that kind of diverses from one game to the other in terms of your thinking, I think.
Kieran O'Keefe asked a question which is related to what you've just kind of said there. How far ahead do you both like to look at fixtures when planning? Well, one of the complications is obviously we don't have the televised fixtures, and that does have an impact on captaincy options and knowing when certain clubs are moving. We do know a little bit because of the Europa League fixtures that have been moved around. There are a couple of Sunday games in December that are already announced, but a couple. So I only feel looking ahead as far as they have confirmed the dates on fixtures, not much further than that.
Well, essentially, any time now, we should have the announcement of the January fixtures.
Anytime last Friday or Monday, we should have had the January
I'll
December
detail that
fixtures.
in a bit, which essentially gives us the whole planning up to the second overhaul.
I think if you
could plan the whole lot in.
If you put a tweet out, someone at Official Premier League might listen to you.
They definitely won't, because the response, I obviously follow Tottenham's Hotspur's Supporters Trust feed, and they're really good for getting on the ball of these things. So at like 4 o'clock last Friday, which was due day of the announcement of the TV fixtures, they were on the case saying, right, no update today, what's happening? No response. And nagged again Monday. And what they got told yesterday was that communications would be diverted to somebody else who's, I don't even know who they are, but they're not that active on Twitter, and all communications are going to go through them. Now, so whether it be the Premier League or whomever has got pissed off with the nagging.
Really?
But then don't set the fucking date in the first place.
Yeah, it's true.
So people are ready. People like me, I'm not doing it for Sky. I'm waiting for the TV fixtures because I'm one who likes to go to the Saturday away 3 o'clock games. And as soon as they're announced, I'm on the phone. It's like, right, what trains are we booking?
Yeah.
And that's why like Supporters Trust are nagging. It's not like we need to know for Sky Fantasy football planning. It's for planning of travelling, etc. Particularly over that Christmas period, time off work, if games are moved, etc. So that announcement is imminent. I don't know what the hold up is. Over Christmas scheduling, it's a little bit more awkward because the police will tend to get a little bit more involved.
Let's talk about goalkeepers. We've got 2 questions, one from @HornetFPL and one from @Espanol Tartan. We are friends Tartan Espanol. Both around goalkeepers. Hornets kept it simple. Ederson back to Alisson, ? Whereas Tartan's talking about, he's been an advocate of expensive goalies and had Ederson in since the wild card, but is he overhaul? Let's get the terminology right before someone from Sky sues us for £50,000. So since the overhaul, but is he worth the extra? Who do you feel is the best option for the next few weeks? Even Patricio or Schmeichel could be good options. I have Edison. I just think I'm going to set and forget. I don't feel like wasting that. We don't have this issue in Sky that a lot of people have in FPL, whereby if you use Alisson as your goalkeeper, you're wasting a Liverpool slot because you could have as many as you want from any one team. So at that point, you may as well have that reliability of a premium.
Yeah, Dean Henderson's currently the highest scoring keeper, 48 points, followed slightly by Patricio, Gator, Pope, and they're all in between 6.4, 6.8. You've got a big cluster in between them values, and it's difficult to pick one. To answer both questions in one go, who do I think is the best keeper pick over the next few weeks? Edison.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, genuinely.
For the next 4.
So, City's next 4 are Palace, Villa, next 3. Villa, Southampton at home. So I think immediately there could be clean sheets on the board. Then there's Liverpool away. Chelsea at home's not daunting. Newcastle, Burnley, United, not worried. I think we kind of set out at the start of the season that I'm very happy to pay the extra for the keeper because the amount of points involved in just simply having the clean sheet. He's a good goalkeeper. I think that's been overlooked a little bit in terms of his shot-stopping ability. He had save bonus in the Everton game, didn't he? Which is pretty unusual. 5 points he picked up in the Everton game. You know, Watford at home, they won 8-0. He's picked up 11 points, mate. Because he's even got a save too in that. And because City are weaker defensively, he is actually likely to be making a couple more saves than he normally would as well anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, Edison, the only reason I would change Edison between now and overhaul is if he got injured.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not a position to be fucking about on when it's a position you've got no real control over other than, okay, how weak is the defence? What's his likelihood of keeping clean sheets? I mean, whether someone like Edison's going to pick up save tier bonus or not is very much a lottery.
Yeah.
So I would want to go with one of the top guys for the consistency. What I would say to just turn that, if you have a cheap goalkeeper or if you've got one of these guys who've got injured, i.e. Loris, De Gea, I would probably advise to go to Alisson.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no point changing that. If that's the biggest issue you've got in your team, amazing. Sure, you got a better rank than me anyway, but yeah, you definitely must do.
Yeah. Lee Bishop, are we overlooking value in Sky because of an FPL mindset? He's been holding on to Pepe for a while, but is not really too impressed. Jorginho would be a much less sexy pick in FPL, but could be a differential in Sky. Any thoughts on Jorginho or just some cheaper players? It's not really come onto my radar, Jorginho.
See, the problem with Jorginho, right, he's hitting all these passing tiers and he'll get the odd penalty, right? He's scored 35 points so far, priced at 9.8 million. Here's some of the players who have scored more at cheaper. El Ghazi, 7.3. Adama Traore, 6.9. Rodri, he's 1.3 million cheaper and he's also picking up a lot of pass tiering bonuses.
Correct.
Yarmolenko, Maddison, Mason Mount, obviously, John McGinn. So, no, I think once you're nearly at that value, maybe it's because for us, we haven't got the experience of working with players with these passing tiers. I've very much had my eye on Fernandinho recently because particularly playing at centre-back, he's going to pick them up nearly every game for City, particularly these next 3 coming up. Almost a certainty in those 2 home games and probably against Palace as well. If he stays at centre back, he'll pick up them passing tiers. Rodri's really picking them up as well. I don't know if the uncertainty over Stone's return to fitness calls a question mark over those 2 and Otamendi. Jorginho is another one. It's not on my radar. I really want to get rid of Harry Wilson. I'm going to hold through these next few fixtures. He's returned the same amount of points as Jorginho in less games and is 2.5 million cheaper.
What's Jorginho priced at?
9.8.
That's a very expensive price.
Todd Cantwell, same points, 4 million less. It just feels too much for me. I understand, and you'll hear this on tomorrow's pod when we've got our Chelsea correspondent on, Ted, Rotation FPL. He's a big fan of Jorginho. And I commented how well I thought he played at Southampton. I think he's actually stepped up a gear this year. And it might be second year, acclimatised a bit better. Chelsea playing a little bit more adventurous, that he's showing through. But I don't know if that makes him better for this, though, by the way. So another one not on my radar.
We've got a question in from Luke Sanderson, who says, sorry, we'll come back to Luke's question. Sorry, Luke. Glenn Roy.
Rejected?
No, not rejected. But that wasn't the question that I read in my mind. The two are close to each other. Would you rather have a rotation risk, Sterling or Aguero, or a certain starter in Mane? Like, that's a very obvious question to just say certain starter in Mane. Why would I want a player who's not likely to play? The other thing with Sky FF is you've got no bench, so you don't even have the option of an injured player being replaced by someone coming off the bench. The other thing in Sky is that your armband doesn't move to a vice captain because you don't have vice captains. So it seems a bit of an easy, obvious answer to give. I'd rather have a certain starter in Mane.
Who's the question from?
Glenroy.
Thank you, Glenroy. Yeah, it's just kind of nailed that, actually, really. It seems obvious to, particularly for this game, even more so, want to go with the obvious starter. But then there's not actually that much difference in this comparison, again, to FPL, in the sense that Mane's a lock. Mm-hmm. Whereas you're always going to run the risk with the City guys, and that's no different to this. There's actually no difference between the two games from that
I held Kevin De Bruyne through in this, interestingly, because it was 2 transfers to get him out and then back in again.
I mean, Aguero's definitely staying for me as a captaincy option in those 2 home games against Villa, Southampton. Then I'll assess afterwards. It's a bonus as well that one of those fixtures is 12:30 on a Saturday, so we know if he's starting. That's helpful as well. That's what Aguero's staying in for. I just think in the immediate, more power than Mane, personally. But that's a move I may well make on the other side of City's next 3 fixtures.
Mm-hmm. Back to Luke. What's the perfect front 3 over the next 6 to 8 weeks? I currently have Aubameyang, Vardy and Salah, but no City coverage. Well, Vardy, James has just decided he can captain for Vardy's next 4 games.
Perfect front 3.
Aubameyang gives you coverage. So I think Aubameyang and Vardy
Che Adams, Ayoze Perez, Joe Linton. What was your 3?
There wasn't those 3, I can tell you that.
I'm going to wind up.
Vardy, Aubameyang, and another. Whoever gives you the coverage on the captaincy. But Vardy, Aubameyang give you most coverage.
I've got Vardy, Aubameyang, Aguero, and I'm pretty happy with that.
That gives you the coverage of pretty much captaincy wherever you need it. There's a couple of games where you don't. The Manchester United, Liverpool, but you can easily captain Trent.
You're going to have I'm going to believe that all of the listeners have got a Liverpool player in their squad somewhere. I think any of them are reasonable captaincy options. Liverpool won't batter United on Sunday. I would personally, I've said this on other pods, I'd expect Salah to blank. It's the sort of game that he blanks in, so I'm not bothered that I don't own him at the weekend. I think if you have both, I'd go Mane.
Yeah.
If I had the whole Liverpool squad, I would probably captain Mane at the weekend. Sort of game for me, no Mike returning if you've got him. But I think going with like Trent, they'll have a lot of the ball. If you've got VVD, that's fine.
Is my cat playing? Gary wants to know. There are 6 single game days between now and the end of November featuring underwhelming teams, and he's mentioning his own there at Manchester United. But Sheffield United, Norwich, Watford, Villa, Newcastle. What to do with captaincy coverage? Let them slide?
So those are the November ones, aren't they? We've obviously got this weekends and the following weekends
but I think
as well.
They have it's not like they're the only ones playing. So it's like Manchester United have a single game day, but they're playing Liverpool. Sheffield United have a single game day, but they're playing Arsenal. So I'm a little confused in terms of the question that there's 2 teams playing.
That one at the end, just interestingly, because I was having a little look at this last night. So there's a consecutive days. It's the Sunday, end of November, Sheffield United playing Man United, and then Villa at home to Newcastle on the Monday. So I did have a little look further ahead to see if there was one where you could bounce onto one for 2 game days. So you get the Saturday and then go back to someone else on the Sunday. Of those 4 teams, the only one that plays on the Saturday, the next game week, is Newcastle, and they're at home to Man City. So that's off the table as well, right?
I don't know. A bit of Almiron. He might break his duck against City.
But then say different example, right? So where it does work. So I've thought about this one, for example. So obviously I've got Vardy. They then go to Southampton next week. And I've thought about, in terms of the coverage, I kind of poo-pooed it before. But I'm beginning to think, particularly the amount of transfers I've got behind me, about actually going to Pookie for 2 games. Mm-hmm. Which would be Manchester United at home on the Sunday after Leicester play at Southampton on the Friday, and then they play Watford at home on the Friday straight afterwards.
Right.
Now, probably wouldn't captain Pookie against Man United, but it gives me that whole coverage of that Friday night. It's an extra captaincy for me. That's the sort of move I think, because people keep saying you might be being a bit too cautious here, James. That's the sort of move that I'm beginning to consider that I might do. Similarly, I'm also thinking around that. It wouldn't cover off the Friday night captaincy, but I'm thinking of moving off Vardy after the Southampton game as well. Perhaps an on-off where I can get 2 games out of Liverpool, at home to Tottenham and away to Villa, before Leicester play on the Sunday at Crystal Palace.
Back to Vardy.
So I think that's one where I'm now strongly thinking about. The problem with going to, say, Salah and Mane there is I probably won't captain them in either of those 2 Liverpool fixtures. Whereas going to Pookie gives me 2 home games where we know they perform better, and it will give me the Friday night captaincy. I might do that. I haven't decided. But yeah, thinking further ahead.
One to consider. You just answered FPL Fox season. Where are the next good 2 for 1s and 3 for 1s? There aren't many at the moment. But if you tune in next week to Sky FF, by then, touch wood, fingers crossed, Premier League would have announced December and January's fixtures as well. And that will give us a clearer indication where we can come at you with November, December and January's, which will make a little bit more sense than just the 5-6 weeks of fixtures that we have at the moment.
Yeah, if you're an owner of Leicester assets, I think there's real scope to move off of Vardy or someone like that between their fixture at Southampton and their fixture at Palace, because nearly everybody's playing twice in between that. So it doesn't have to be restricted to Liverpool, for example, or Norwich.
Yeah.
I could add, for example, financially, I could add Sterling to Aguero and get those 2 Man City home fixtures in between the 2 Leicester games. So I think that's definitely a move I'll be making. I just need to weigh up where I'm going to do that.
Cool. That's the questions for Sky FF, James.
What was the one you skipped off?
No, we answered that. Luke's.
Oh, Luke Sanderson.
Yeah.
Cool.
We answered that. That was fixtures 6 to 8, the best strikers. We talked about you were talking about Joel Linton and
Che Adams
and Perez. There we go. Guys, thanks for listening into Sky Fantasy Football, the little journey where James and I come and try and discover this new game and win £50,000. Not going so well at the moment, but we'll get there in the end.
I think it's going fine.
It's going fine, but we're not anywhere
got 2
close to
transfers.
50 Gs, mate.
Probably not making any week, and then I'm looking at that move off of Vardy the week after. Look, it's obviously we're recording Wednesday, so we don't know the injury news or anything yet. Just to clarify, who's your captain Saturday?
Sterling.
Okay.
At the moment, it's either Sterling or Vardy, followed by Trent Alexander-Arnold on the Sunday, followed by Aubameyang on the Monday.
No strings attached. You can buy any player. Who is, if you owned everybody, who's the best captaincy shout on Saturday of all the players? I think it's just so open this Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's back to the same dilemma in FPL, right? Callum Wilson, Tammy Abraham all throwing their name into the ring. I just think Bournemouth at home against Norwich, who are garbage in defence, got to be Callum Wilson.
The answer is Harry Kane.
Oh, is it really? I mean, he did play well for England on Monday, I'll give you that.
Who did look good Monday, didn't he?
Did.
Although we did a live stream Monday night and you spent the whole of the live stream slagging him off. And as soon as we got in the car afterwards, you went to me, "It's fucking good tonight, Kate."
I think I was being mildly sarcastic there when I was slagging him off. He played well. There was a couple of rubbish crosses in the first half, but you only beat what's in front of you, and we battered them. So thanks for listening in. This week, coming at you tomorrow, we have Clash of the Correspondents, which we have Rotation FPL Ted, Chelsea, and Sai, FPL Footballer, Newcastle. That was a crap Geordie accent, but there you go.
You're not great
before
at it,
the Chelsea-Newcastle game on Saturday. So running down both of their teams. Ted's in good form because Chelsea are doing well. And Sai is a bit meh. Not completely downhearted, but a bit meh.
It was a good job Newcastle won their last game.
Yeah, it is.
That Sai's very chilled anyway, so he's very feet on the ground. He's realistic about Newcastle's chances.
Followed by the final plan on Friday, where James and I run down our FPL teams and what we're planning with the differentials and our North v South, etc., etc. Anything else to add?
No, we're done.
Make sure you tune in to the show, hit subscribe, and go have a listen back to the Who Got the Assist double act as well, because that was nice to record and fun to listen to. Ciao for now.
Cue music, man, ciao. Good luck, everyone.
The Fantasy Football Show.